Mhm. It's on my phone.
I believe we are live. Okay, we are live on Facebook. Kia, I'm going to kick off this segment. I want to welcome everyone to
Okay.
A Day of Light and Love 2019. And it's an event that we live stream. We're live streaming for 24 hours every other hour from late last night through late this evening. And we're here just to serve those who will most benefit from the voices, the story, the wisdom that the leaders that have collaborated here have gathered at Christmas, at this very important time of light and love, to share, to freely give their time and their wisdom to the world during this event. In this segment, I am so honored to introduce you. If you have not met her before, Kia Scherr is actually one of my favorite people. She doesn't know that she is, but now she does. But she truly is because well, I'm going to let her speak and I'm not going to say a whole bunch and maybe I'll just ask some questions because there's so much depth. There's so much to be said for theory. But there's something to be said for wisdom through immersion. And that's what I think of when I think of you, Kia. And I'm sure, if you were to rewind and they gave you a choice, you would say, maybe I wouldn't want to be immersed this way. But that was not, you didn't get a vote. and so and so you're here today, and I really want to take turn this over to you because we talked briefly, and from that I know that well, I know how potent the subject of forgiveness and gratitude is, and just the fact of celebrating it. Can you just give us a short little bit of background which led you to I know you're writing another book. You've already written a book. You're a peace ambassador, really. Could you just give us a smidge, and then we'll get into some meatier conversation?
Okay, so for those of you out there who have not yet heard this story, a short summary is it was about 11 years ago on Thanksgiving of 2008. My husband Alan and my daughter Naomi were in Mumbai, India, with a group of meditators from the Synchronicity Foundation. And they were there to share modern meditation there. And they were in the restaurant at the Oberoi that evening when terrorists stormed in. 10 terrorists attacked the city of Mumbai, and two of them went to the Oberoi, and they were rounding the corner of the restaurant, which opened up to the lobby, and everybody dove under tables, and the terrorists went around shooting everybody one by one. And Alan and Naomi did not survive that attack. And I was in Florida, where I am now, visiting my family for Thanksgiving when I got a phone call about the attack, and we had to watch and wait, wondering where they were, what was happening. And the Friday after, I got a phone call from the US consulate in Mumbai telling me that um, Alan and Naomi both, it was confirmed they had both been shot and killed in that attack. And so it was as if I too had been shot. And a part of me died in that moment, and in a state of shell shock and disbelief. As we just stared at the TV for the aftermath, we did see a photograph of the lone surviving terrorist, who was a young man about the same age as my youngest son. And it what came into what I heard inside of me was, forgive them, they know not what they do. And I just simply repeated that to my family, and they said, and there was silence, and I said, there's already too much hate. I could just see that, in too much hate, too much fear. He's completely disconnected from who he is. He's forgotten. So there's a lack of love there, and love is what is needed. And let's send them our love and compassion. because I was shell shocked and broken open, the light streamed in.
Mm.
You know, that's we know that. We've heard that from the Leonard Cohen song, you know, through the cracks the light streams in. So there was this wide opening and whoosh. And in that moment, it felt like I knew that was right. And I felt some peace enter my heart in the midst of that. Now, there was aftermath, and it's been 11 years. And that was the wisdom that came through directly from Source, because nothing was blocking Source at that moment, which shared that message with me. So now that started me on another path. I had been on a spiritual path since I was a teenager, and maybe in preparation, all the meditation, all the meditation. And now time to live it. And
Mm.
now you're going to be, the tests come. So the challenges come. Now, what are you going to do with it? The gifts have been given. What are you going to do with them? Now, I wasn't consciously thinking any of that, of course. Definitely not. It's only now in retrospect I can look back and see, okay, well, what did I really know about forgiveness? I had no idea, really. I just knew it felt right. And yes, that's my choice. It's a choice. And then that the unfoldment comes from there. What does it mean, really? Because there are many, many levels to that. And all I know is that life is for giving. Life is not for holding back.
Mm.
And it was a choice I had to make every day. And I didn't, I mean, it wasn't, a lot of times I've held back. A lot of times I didn't want to give because it hurt. Or am I going to let go of Alan and Naomi? All kinds of things. So it's been an incredible journey along the way, and making little choices. There's a big choice, and then among that, there's a little choice. And that's where, okay, just slow down. Your life is actually stopped right now.
Mm.
So just be there, accept it, acceptance of that. Even though you might not be able to accept what happened yet, because that took years, really. There are always many levels to things, but okay, this is your reality now. You've now been put onto another, you're in another reality now. Forget about the other one, over. So adjust. So it's a learning process.
If I could, I want to interject here because you said something really powerful. It was like you were worried if this is what I heard, this is what I got. You were worried that in the forgiving, you would forget them.
Yes, that's a
Wow.
part of it. That
I
is
think
part of it.
that is like, I've never heard anyone say that. And
I
that's it right there. That's
and it was really years later that I had come to see that I was holding on to something, an aspect of how I knew. I had to come to see that was happening, that I had to change my perspective and my experience about that, because and to see the truth of it all. But see, we hold on to what we know. So there's nothing wrong with that. We know the form, the way they looked, the relationship we had, everything we knew in the physical world. We know that because that's what we were living. So we want to hold on to that. And that's not going to continue. But those memories will be there. So the memories are there and they won't go away, but we do want to keep those memories and we want to make sure we don't forget. And so there's a part that is, well, if I stop grieving, if I don't feel sad, am I being disloyal to Alan and Naomi? If, you know, so there's a lot of back and forth about that, and guilt, guilt that I wasn't there. If I could have, even though it's totally irrational, but could I have prevented it? Could I have saved them? Could I have jumped on top of them and saved them? It's irrational completely. But I had to go through allow myself to go through all of that. And that took many, many years. So anybody out there who is who's still going through a loss, and whatever it is a loss of a death that maybe you knew was coming or you didn't know was coming, a divorce that you can't do anything about. Sometimes those things happen gradually over many years, and sometimes they're abrupt if there's an incident that triggers it. Anything, there's a lot of these things every day that do happen. And so it's just to be present. I mean, obviously, that, and what all the great teachers, what do they tell us? And it's all theory until we experience it and allow ourselves to experience it. What does it really mean to be present? What does light mean exactly?
Mm.
Light is, we could say, everything that's positive. You know, light, what lights us up? Okay, what lifts our hearts is light. What brings us joy is light. And what is that? And we're living in its experience. So what can our experience bring us? And how can we embrace it? And embrace death, because within it is light. You can't have one without the other. And whatever darkness caused that death, and that darkness contains the opposite of light, the opposite of what is good. It includes the negative, what we might term evil. That exists. To recognize that that's there, but because you cannot have one without the other.
Mm.
But we have, what can we, what if we use our focus in our minds, we can focus our attention. We can choose attention and shift it, and that's what brings our experience. We can't manipulate experience and say, oh, I want to be joyful, so I'm going to conjure up joy.
So true.
You can't force that, but you can say, okay, I'm open to experiencing joy. I'm open to experiencing gratitude for the learning or for the grace within this loss or this suffering, that this pain, that there's grace just by just letting go and being with it. There's something beautiful about that, because we're living and we're human and we have emotions and thoughts, and then if we're becoming then connected to life in a different kind of a way that we never could before, because this wasn't happening before. But now we can experience something different and new, and it brings light because it's opening, and we're more aware. Our senses are, just, it's like it's all gotten sharpened. It's all sharpened or polished, we could say. It polishes our experience, so it's more vibrant, more vibrant. That's what I've noticed. So the littlest things are much more vibrant. I can't take life for granted anymore, because it can change in an instant. So with that awareness, we're going to be aware of what's in our physical world, what our thoughts are, what we can learn about ourselves from our patterns, shift our thoughts to create a different experience, be aware of feelings, and get to know a new us. That, but including the past, including Alan and Naomi, for me, in a different kind of a way, because they're not here in the same way, but yet I can't deny that they're actually still here inside of me in certain ways. And I'm not making that up. It's more than a memory. There's the memories, but there's something else that's there, because the spirit of Alan and Naomi, of course, how can that ever be killed? Because there's no human body to kill it. So a bullet can't touch that. So that can never die. So therefore, are they dead? No. So if they're not, if they're still alive, how can I get to know them in a new way? How can I? But I have to be open to that. And if I'm unforgiving, I'm going to stay closed up.
Yes.
Right. So I'm just, this shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Locked in the old position.
That's right. And this, and blame. Okay. And we see that we can't create new ways of being if there's blame. And we see that happening, and we won't get into the current situation. But the reason things are so stuck and in conflict in our country, in many countries, not just ours, but it's because of this locked in positions, blame and going back and forth, and blame, 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 separation, separation, separation. We're never going to find a way forward in that situation. But in our personal, bring it back to the personal. If we blame, even we blame God, shake our fists at God, or shake our fists at Pakistan or the terrorists or India or the United States for selling them weapons. Shouldn't you have known better? What are you doing giving so much aid to Pakistan? Weren't you look? You must have known that their ISI was supplying things to terrorists. Come on, we must have known that. And yet you decided, for whatever reason, turn a blind eye to that one. Well, there's okay. Could I have done anything about that? No, no. So you have to accept that. It's
Yes.
not my job, and just let go of that one. But be with me. Be with me. What can I now bring forth? Not only for my personal life, but because I can't just have a regular kind of a personal life, but joining with other people so that we can all begin to turn the tide, we could say, by making other being. And this is what this sort of what you're doing, Jeanne, and having events like this and creating forums for this
Yes.
so that we can join together and say, hey, yeah, let's just focus on what's in front of us, because we are all connected. There's the individual, there's the collective, and the links, and we know that there's connections. And to increase those connections, then we can create more balance between the negative and the positive, is the simplest way to say it, in the dark and the light, good
Yes.
and evil. Sure, those are all words, but it is about, let's just tip the scales more and
Mm-hmm.
create the tipping point. And each of us has a role to play in that. And that we can do every single day in the kitchen when we walk up and go get our coffee, our tea, or whatever. Who do we encounter? Whether it's just ourselves alone, we could wave in the mirror and smile, or maybe a relative or a family member that we're feeling grumpy. You know what can we bring to an encounter, whatever that is? If it's a sister, a brother, without judgment.
So it's not only attention, it's intention.
That's right. That's right. And that's all. There's lots and lots of teachers who are teaching us how to do that. And you can create your own intention. Don't let anyone else create it for you.
Mm.
Use a teacher to guide you and point the way up the mountain. But so you have a better view on that mountain. There's the better view. And the more you see, the more information you have, and you can make more informed choices. But you're the one making the choice, and you can create that intention. So, and that is inside of you, that source of wisdom.
Mm.
The source of wisdom is inside of you and will be validated every time you hear another teacher say something and it hits you. Yep, you nod your head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know that because it's inside of you,
Mm-hmm.
because it's already there in you. You nod and say, yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that
Wow.
forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. As I sit here and go, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why, Ram Dass, the famous American spiritual teacher known as Ram Dass, who had this very colorful life. And we've seen all that on Facebook now. And now what he started with Be Here Now. And then the last quote he's going to be known for, I think, is we're all just walking each other home.
Mm-hmm.
We are all walking each other home. We're reminding each other where home is. But we have to be present to people, and we're walking each other home. Continue to share, interact, engage, and then we will create a beautiful flow of life.
You are in the process of writing another book, and I know you mentioned that, forgiveness and gratitude and celebration is part of that. But there's also, I believe you're working on now, what is home?
That's right. That is one of the themes. How do we find our way home? And there are, the image of the yellow brick road comes to mind, which is a very famous movie and image and metaphor for life. We all have our own yellow brick road, we could say. And what bricks are we laying down for that path to take us there? And so when I wrote the pocketbook of peace, it was really simply those little bricks to put down on the path, stones, a pathway to love. That when we get to the end of our life, that's really what matters the most? The experience that we cherish, love. How can we experience that each day? Love. What is needed? How is love needed now? Maybe it's patience that day. Maybe it's just acceptance. Maybe it's silence. And just so those are the kinds of things. Maybe it's a simple smile
Mm.
that you receive or that you give. Maybe it's taking a deep breath to love yourself, just to stop for a moment and take that deep breath and accept whatever's happening, whether it's nothing or a day that is nice and beautiful and sunny or a day that's rainy. And so acceptance and then listening. So all of these things there. So the guidebook just has I just dropped it in, like, but now we're expanding on it to talk about what I've learned about each of those things and share some stories that from India that happened, and then create a practice for people. And that is what forgiveness, but it all stemmed from the making the choice of forgiveness. So that's why right now our working title is Forgiveness, a Choice. What leads up to that? And what is the true meaning of forgiveness? And in the end, we discover there's really nothing to forgive if you've managed to dissolve judgment and blame. Then it's just what is, and you're accepting what is. And forgiveness is just a pathway back to love.
Mm. And back to the subject of what is home, and belonging. I know you mentioned, especially when there's loss,
Yes,
because when there is a significant loss, you begin to realize, I think, that home was never a structure.
that's right.
Home was a communion.
Yeah. And because I felt homeless when that happened. I mean,
Yes,
technically, we had our spiritual home at Synchronicity. We were resident staff members. So technically, we had a living space, which I could never return to after that. And so I felt comfortably homeless. So I'm not saying I was destitute, certainly not.
right.
Emotionally, for sometimes I felt that way, but I was comfortably but homeless. I was just going from here to there and had to then discover home is where the heart is.
Yes.
Mumbai, India, the Trident Hotel became a second home.
Mm.
It was a home at Synchronicity. There was a home at my dad's in Florida where I could come back to, where I could be with family. And so I had to give up the idea of my home or a
Mm.
structure that I was paying for and that I bought, or was paying rent, and it was furniture that I bought. These are all the things we surround ourselves with, and we want to make it as nice as possible, create community. So, and I still want that, but I think I can't have it until, I'm finally realizing that home is wherever I actually am. It's where I am, and home is where we are after all. If we can just be there fully and be there wholeheartedly, home is where the heart is.
Yes.
Can we just
Yes.
be in the heart of it all? Heart of life is where home is. And if we're lucky enough to have a structure, fantastic. And I hope to create that, and because I love community, and so I'm looking forward to that whenever that happens.
But the structure without the heart isn't home.
Yeah, it's an empty, yeah,
It's
it's
a
an empty,
house.
yeah, we just fill it up with television, and not that there's anything wrong with that. We can really enjoy and get a lot of entertainment from various things. But if we just create noise,
It's just a
and we're always,
distraction. It really is a distraction that keeps us from experiencing the true home.
that's
It's,
right.
it sounds like this process for you has um, given you are home.
That's right. After all, oh, and there's a beautiful, and I wish I had in front of me. We could post it. I could post it. The Guest House. Have you seen that Rumi poem called The Guest House?
No.
I think that's the name of it. It's known. And so anybody could look it up online, and I'll post it. The Guest House, that we are basically here residing in, we're a guest in this house. The body
Ah.
is our house, our home, and we're a guest here in this body while we're here.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting way to look at it. It's an interesting perspective, we could say.
Oh,
So it puts
absolutely.
it so beautifully, and I don't have a memory for specific lines. All I know is that, oh yes, I've always nodded my head when I've read that. So we'll post it.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you'd like to offer? Um, any specific process? I mean, you've talked about, some of the journey to get to where you are in terms of the the different levels of like acceptance and forgiveness and so on. Is there anything that you would suggest to someone who might be earlier in a journey and they might be a little stymied where they know that they're stuck and maybe they recognize that they recognize that they want to move forward but they are captives still.
Yeah. I think it's important to allow that to experience, first of all, and to embrace whatever is happening within the self, and give yourself some time, quiet time, and quiet time every day, wherever you're comfortable, and to be with whatever, notice your physical sensations and your thoughts and feelings, and just be with yourself, even if it's for 10 minutes, and just be with yourself. But then it really helps to then, it helps, I notice that if I simply get up and walk outside, no matter what the weather. I haven't had a car here, so I haven't. I would probably drive to the beach or drive to a beautiful nature area, but I'm here in this neighborhood, and I just go out and I walk by the ponds. I notice the palm trees and the lights and people driving by in golf carts, waving. It's Florida with their little dogs, and by the time I've walked up to the gate and back, I'm in a different frame of mind.
Mm.
But I'm just really just noticing just noticing, that's all, and being with whatever. There are times I have to sit down on a bench if I need to cry a bit, and oh yeah, gosh, it's an anniversary of this or that, or yeah, it's sad sometimes around the holidays. It's Christmas. I'm kind of missing old Christmas. I'm going to sit down for a minute. I feel something coming on. Okay, just I have sat down on a bench by the pond and you know, just allowed some tears, and then I'm with it, and after a little bit, just get up and walk along and just be in that space without trying to fill it up too much, and then keep to myself a bit, allow some space. That's a sacred time there. And that's where you will find grace. Grace will find you if
Mm.
you make yourself available for it.
Grace
Because
will
what is
find
within
you.
that inner home is the light of grace itself. But to that is grace. It's right there. But and it's there. It's it's always willing, but you got to be there and allowed. You got to be receive it. And so, okay, so let's allow ourselves on this day to receive grace and just be. And this is a sacred moment. I feel it's just having this opportunity to share. It's beautiful. And I appreciate that you've made this possible. So I'm very grateful. So then gratitude is just a natural outcome of that because, wow, yeah, I'd like this. So we feel grateful for that. And no matter what happened that brought us to this moment, it doesn't matter because in this moment, we can connect. We're connecting. You're in Chicago. I'm in Florida. There are people in India, in Mexico, in maybe Sweden, Canada, England, who knows, any number of places. And there we all are. And we can allow some connection here and feel it, tap into it, and enjoy that. And then we have something then as we go about our day, we can carry that with us. That's our gift. That's a gift, our Christmas gift.
Mm, I love it.
So
I have nothing. You've just been, there's so much. There's just so much here. You've given a lot. And if anyone is receiving, they'll have to process and integrate. But I know they feel elevated. There's when someone has walked a path and they have found grace in that path, no matter the difficulty, the level of difficulty and challenge. Um, there's so much, there's so much wisdom. You know, there's the embodiment of wisdom, which is so different than the ivory tower wisdom. Jesus, he walked amongst the people. I mean,
that's right.
yes. And so,
He
I,
embodied that and lived it and modeled it so
ooh,
that we could learn what it is for
yeah,
ourselves.
yes. So thank you so much for taking the time
Oh, thank
on
you.
this Christmas day. Thank your father for putting you on loan to us. Yes, Kia, it's always just an amazing conversation with you. So just thank you again.
And thank you. And big hug to everybody. So
And
enjoy a
to
Christmas
you.
hug and Hanukkah hug. It's still
Oh,
Hanukkah.
it is.
They just celebrated and many celebrations, Festival of Lights. So lots of light around the world from many traditions.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kia.
Okay. Bye bye, everybody.